Alright squad, in part 3 of building the luxury stays directory, I'm going to show you how to set up the ViewComponents gem, and then also we're going to jump in and lay this all out in HTML. We're going to set up the components, we're going to set up the pages, all the structure you need to make it fully functioning and ready for real data. So let's jump in. Okay, so let's get started. Let's install ViewComponents. So firstly, let's jump into our app here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to run this command, which is Rails. I've got it here, so let's just pull it there. So it's Rails app template. Wow, if I can type, that'd be good. App template, and then we're gonna go location equals, and then here we got to be real careful because I typed this in wrong last time. So I'm just gonna copy that, and then just make sure we get the right URL, and we're gonna use a template, and we're gonna hit go. All right, so it's running through our little script. Okay, so where do we want to store our view components? So this one, I like to do it in app views components, right? Because the view is a component, so that makes sense. Do you want to use dry initializer? Yep. All right, bundle install. What's wrong here? Could not find view component. Okay, cool. So it looks like it's just gone and run bundle install for us. Do we want to use stimulus? Yes, we do. JS bundler. Do we use Tailwind? Yes, we do. Custom generator? Sure thing. And we want to use ERB as our template processor. Thank you very much. And then let it do its thing. Run ViewComponents 3.2 installed. Okay, so there's a bit more setup now. What we want to do is we want to change the way our controller views live. So at the moment when we look in Rails, we've got views, and then like everything just gets kind of smashed into here, which really what we want to do is we want to create a new folder here called controllers, right? And then we want all these kind of things to sit inside of controllers, realistically. And then also we want to have a mailers one here. Because yeah, otherwise it just becomes this big mess here, and we kind of want to just go between controllers, which are kind of like pages, and then components, which are little pieces of the puzzle. All right, so we want to add that, and then we want to go into app controllers, and then the application controller. And then we want to grab this append path here. So we're going to grab that, so that lives in application controller, and then we're going to just chuck that here. Okay, because now it just tells it to look in app views controllers, okay? We have to do the same in our mailers. Okay, so we grab that, and then we're gonna go into mailers, application mailer, do that there. Okay, app views mailers, which we've set up there, and then user mailer, so we can fix that up now in a second. All right, and I'll rename this. I'll just drag that into mailers, and I'm gonna rename that just to users. So go mailers users, because it's in a mailers folder, so it's quite clear. All right, and that's just the HTML there, which is fine. Okay, so you can see now Rails also includes a little PWA guy, so that one we have to leave there, but registrations can go into controllers. And now what I'm gonna do too is I'm gonna version this V1 straight away. So I like to have versioning because I know that your controllers can change between versions and have breaking changes. So we're gonna have a V1, and registrations is going to kind of live. I mean, we can decide whether to go V1 or thing, but I think we can kind of keep that across all of our stuff. Passwords, and what else do we have? We got layouts, identity, the home controller, which is technically going to be inside of V1 here. PWA sessions will also be in there. And then we've got components. All right, so now in our views, we've got views, components, controllers, mailers, PWA. And we've probably broken everything, but that's fine. We can fix it all. And let's just have a look here. So we've got controllers. Now we would create a new folder in controllers. It's gonna go V1. So let's just do that. We're gonna go V1. And then inside there, we're gonna need to have a root control. All right, so I like to call that one base controller here. And we're gonna just paste this in. So it's V1, base controller extends application base controller, and the layouts is V1 layouts application. So we should have views controllers, and then we should have V1 and then we should have layouts here, okay? So we're gonna add a new folder called layouts. And I like doing this because I've found already in like the other apps like that I'm building, you think, oh no, it's all good. But then you say, oh no, we're changing the whole layout. We're now changing the whole layout of the app. And it's like, you got this one layout file and it just breaks everything. So it's just much easier to start from the beginning, do V1. You're gonna thank yourself later and you're gonna have a great time. So that's set up there. Now this will load V1 layouts application, which is this one here. Cool. All right, so we also want to move our home controller into the V1 folder. But now we do have to remember to actually namespace this. So we're going to stick it inside of a V1 module. And it's not going to extend application controller, it's going to extend base controller here. Okay, so it extends this one so that it inherits all this stuff here. So we will need to fix our routes up as well. So if we jump into here, so you can see here's all our like our authentication. Here's our root. So we'll pull that down here. And then I'm just going to enable this like authentication. And that's an identity. That's all cool. And then down here, we want to namespace our V1. Down here, I'm going to go namespace V1. And then the path that means it's going to just default. So you don't have to append V1. It just will always do. And if you introduce V2, you can do V2, test that all out. And then when you're ready to swap everything over to V2, you just change the path to boom, done. So V1, V1, and then we're gonna have index. So realistically, root is actually V1 home index. You probably don't need this piece in here. Let's see if that works now. There we go, okay? So we fixed that all up. You can see I'm not appending V1 or anything there. It's just working. So that's cool. But now as we add our new routes, we're gonna put them in the V1. Now, it seems like a little bit of work in the beginning, but like, look, it took 10 minutes. To do this now saves you so much pain when you have to refactor it all. I've done it. I could just take my word for it. It's painful when you have, 30 or 40 different controllers and routes and views and stuff. It's all a mess. Do this now. Save yourself, your future self doesn't have a problem and everyone's happy. All right, so now when we got installed our little thing, we got this little generator, right? The view component generator. Now I like to skip the tests. I like to skip the system test and skip the preview file because they just create a lot of mess for us right now. So we just turn those all off. And then also inside of the template component, I like to get rid of this with collection parameter because I don't generally use it. So I get rid of that. And is there anything else in here that we don't use? That's all good. So I think it just add that. Now when we generate our little components, it's not going to create a whole bunch of mess we have to keep deleting. So that's handy. And look, we're going to probably use this home controller, I reckon. We're going to probably make it look really nice. So we'll move on and actually start laying that out. So we'll probably have a play here with this guy. All right, so let's have a look at our design. I think that's what we can do here nicely. Get rid of this guy and bring you guys there. Now, we're trying to build this, right? So this kind of logo here, this is our header. A centered flow, kind of max width something here. And then this is like our, I guess our highlighted places here. And all listings, like, right? So we're gonna have a search here, which will take you to a search page. So really what we're trying to build is like a home page, a search page, and a listing page. There's really 3 main pages. And then you can kind of start pulling it out. Like you can go categories and regions and all that kind of thing. But for us, we just want to start with this kind of, let's start trying to build out this home page. So looking at a design like this, really important. I don't know how skilled or unskilled you guys are, but I would break this down in this way. So I've got a home page. This is a component for me. This is a header, basically a global header component that you're always going to show the logged in user here. We're going to have our site logo. We're going to have a header, right? This content here is kind of page specific, right? So I will put that in a folder in the components and I'll show you how to do that. This is page specific. And then you're going to have a footer, right? So we're gonna have a footer, which I haven't added in here yet, but that'll also be a kind of global component that we'll use. So with that in mind, let's open up our controllers pages. We're gonna go into our V1 home index here, right? So currently it's a sign in nonce, which really that should be a sign in page. So what I'm gonna do here is where it should really be, this is like a user page, right? So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna just create a demo.html.eob because I don't want to lose this code because like it's just really easy to know all these different paths and stuff. So we'll just save that there and then we can get rid of it. Now we know like you can get all chucked in the bin, right? Directly in the bin you go. So we will start with that. And then also one thing we could also do is like look at this layout, the application, right? So this is our layout, our wrapper that wraps everything. This is what the yield, this gets injected, this bit gets injected into here. So we could probably say, hey, we want to actually have our header here, right? Like imagine if you come from React World or something, you'd have a header here like that. That's how you'd write it. So we'd want to have that in there. So we're going to build that. We're going to have a body and then we're going to have probably a footer, right? Like that's probably something like that. Or we could just say, hey, the component, the page itself, we can just use that every time in the page because then that allows a bit more flexibility. So it really depends on how you want to roll with this. So I think let's try and do it inside the pages today just to keep this really simple and clean. It just gives you a bit more flexibility. Okay, so let's create our first component. So we're gonna go here. I'm gonna leave the server running and do it in this other tab and I'm gonna go Rails G view component. I'm gonna go global, or even, yeah, I mean navigation bar. Is that what it's called? Navigation bar. Sure. I think that's what it is. Anyway, naming things, one of the hardest things in programming. So you hit navigation bar, cool. It's created that in app views components, navigation bar component. So if we jump in there, components, navigation bar, here's our navigation bar component. So if we chuck that, we can chuck all this in the bin. And we're gonna now say here, we're gonna say render navigation bar dot new, right? And let's see if that works. Right, yeah. No method, navigate, oh, it's component, that's right. Application, I've missed a few steps here, obviously, guys. So we've forgotten the gem, or I've forgotten the gem. We need to install the dry initializer gem. It hasn't actually been installed for some reason. So dry, let's just grab that because we do need it. So I guess it says, hey, do you want to use that? But it doesn't actually install it for us. So let's just grab it, chuck it down here because we do need it. And we're just gonna run bundle, chuck that in. Okay. We also need to fix up our generator. No, we've done that, sorry. We need to set up our helper because at the moment you can see it's really annoying to type component every time. And there's a better way of doing it where you can actually just run component and then here you can go navigation bar. You don't have to do new and you can literally just do that. So I'm gonna set up the helper to do this. So inside of app helpers, we're going to go application helper. And I'm just gonna grab the code because it makes it so much easier. So just bear with me for 1 second. We're gonna go here, grab all this stuff, bang that in, all right? So basically just it constantizes it, and then passes in the arguments and the block. But it just makes it really easy because now we can just go navigation bar, and you are supposed to be working, Chief. We probably just have to restart this guy. There we go. So you can now see it's rendering 2 of the nav bars and one of them is in the really tidy way, which I like, and this was the default. So bang that in, love it, makes life a lot easier. Let's test if we got Tailwind working. That's always a good one. So we're gonna just run our nav bar here and we're gonna go class, and we're gonna just go boom, and then we're gonna say border B, and then we're gonna say border Grey 2000, PY4, sure, why not? There we go, got a border. So you can see that it's all working and everything's running. So I'll zoom in a bit. There we go. You can see that little line. So it's running processing our tailwind in here. So that's awesome. There is another step that we need to do actually as well, is in our tailwind config, we want to just add all the paths where we want tailwind to watch. So if we go down to tailwind config here, and I'm just going to pump that in. So we want to check style sheets, yes. All the app, we don't need app components because that's old school. We need the helpers, we need any JavaScript files, we need views, we need view components, RB and JS. So clean that up like that. And then we do need to restart Tailwind to pick that up. That just means that Tailwind will watch those files for changes in the CSS so that it can actually build it properly, which is very important because you'll be editing files and nothing will happen and you'll wonder why. Another component that I would create here usually would be basically a wrapper component, and that just keeps the body like centered. So let's create that, a wrapper component. So we'll go Rails G view component, and it's going to be called wrapper. And I guess we could even just call this content wrapper. Just make it clearer, hit that. Now what this component's going to do is keep content centered. So all it's going to do here is going to render its content like that, right? And then in here, this is where we're going to just set. So flex col, that's fine. And what we're going to do is we're going to say the width is full inside of a mobile or in our small version, right? We want to make content go all the way. But in the desktop, we want to limit that, right? So we're going to jump in here and we're going to say width. And it's really, it's a max width, I would imagine. Max width. And we're going to go 768. What is this? It's hard to know. Let's have a look. Width is 1000. Okay, so that'd be 1024, right? So we'll go max width 5XL. And then what I'm going to do for now is I'm just going to chuck a border on it so we can see. And then have a look here. We need to use it. That's always a good idea. And let's just see. So this, you can see this content's also kind of limited and pushed into the middle, so it doesn't sit right to the sides. So we're going to use our wrapper inside of our nav bar, right? So in here, you can nest components, which is friggin' sick. We're going to go component content wrapper do, and then any content in here is now inside that component. Let's wrap that. No method error for component. Why not, son? That's definitely should work. So I've just remembered what you need to do. We need to add the application helper to the actual component, the view component, because it doesn't know how to use that yet. So we need to just give it that. So we chuck it in here. We need to say, hey, use the application helper in all this code. So there we go. Excellent. All right. So you can see here, we've got some weird thing going on. And the max width, can you see how it's cutting here? Right. So probably should have just given it a background color to make it cleaner. So if we just go here, instead of this, just go BG blue 100. See there? Now, what we need to do is center this. So part of the nav bar. Now we really need, I guess we could just do, it's a tough one, but I mean, we could just go MX auto to shove that in the middle. And now you see, like, as we get smaller, that's always staying there, right? So that's a nice way we can keep that content of our page in the middle. So we're going to use this kind of content wrapper wherever we want content to stay in there and not go too wide. Excellent. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to grab this little guy and create a group. I'm not very good at Figma, but bear with me. Group that, and then we're going to export this as an SVG. Check it out. Yep. And then we're going to export it. And now that will be our logo file, right? So we will grab that and we're going to stick that inside of assets, images, and this will be logo.svg. Rename that. Close off content wrapper, don't need that, don't need that, don't need that. All right, and here's our navigation bar template. Okay, and that's inside of a content wrapper. Okay. So we can add the image now. To do that, what we're gonna do here is we're gonna set up a div because we need to handle two things. Because we're gonna have our logo. So this is gonna be image tag and it's gonna be logo.svg, right? And because this one's gonna be class flex item center justify between. Yes, it is. And let's have a look at that. There we go. Let's get rid of this silly color now. So that's in the content wrapper. Boom, go away. Nice. And now we can just set here class, and we're gonna say width of 10. Let's see that. Oh, that's way too small. 24, too small. 32. This is all the fun experimenting game. Something like that, right? And that'll look crispy on Retina screens because of SVG. And then on the other side, we're going to do the logged in user component, right? So let's set up that component. Run it in here. Rails G view component, and this is going to be I guess logged in user. User. Now, realistically, this component will flick out in depending if you are logged in or not. So we're going to add that here. And realistically, for now, I'm not too interested in doing too much here because this is something that we're going to have to change. So we're going to have a user profile image component, etc., etc. But for now, for this, in all intents and purposes, we're going to just go here. We're going to logged in user, right? And then what we're going to do here is we're going to go user and we're going to go current.user. Okay, we're going to pass that into this component. So what we do here is we say there's an option for user. There's our logged in user template right there. And inside of that guy, see, because now what we can actually do, we can say if user.present, we can do that, watch. You can see I'm logged in and it's showing my email. So that's cool. So we've got a little logged in user component. So you can see here, it's like very cool way of doing components in Rails. So like you're not jumping into like React or a JavaScript framework to do this. You can just do it in Rails and it gives you that nice organization, which I really missed when I moved to Rails from React and stuff, which is one of my, I think the best things of those frameworks for me is like building little pieces and plugging them in where you need them. And I feel like this way is the best of both worlds. So let me know what your thoughts are. But anyway, so that's basically our header, right? Doesn't look quite as cool as that yet. But what we want to do now is we can now start setting up this kind of page header for this home screen. So let's try and work on that next. So I want to use a custom font here. This is called Hirigino Mincho. Hopefully I haven't offended anyone saying that. But here we go in layouts, and we're going to add in down the bottom here, just in the head. And I also just want to create some space there. We want to connect, but we want to go and find this font and actually use it. So we're going to go to Google Fonts and find it. Damn, so that's not a Google Fonts. That's super lame. So we'll leave that out now. We'll come back to that one. We'll need to find a new font for it, which is super lame. Anyway, what can you do? Let's work on this page header. So I'll show you how I set this up now. So closing all this off, what I want to do, so we've got app, views, components. Now, these are your basic kind of components here. But then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, for instance, home screen, right? So this will be, or the landing, whatever we call this, it'll probably be, yeah, the landing. page. So in order to do something like that with the landing page, we're going to say Rails G view component. Now we're going to go landing screen. I mean, could even just be landing slash, and then this is going to be hero. I believe we call that a hero there, or yeah, that's our hero. So we just hit that and you'll see it'll create it in a nested component like that for us. And there it is, landing hero, right? So now what we need to do here is we need to add in our text, and then we can add in our, look, I mean, look, that's trying to do its thing for itself. I just like to do it this way so that it's clean and organized, is the word that I'm looking for. So in here now, we got our navigation bar, and then we're just going to hit landing hero, and you use a slash here, and there's our hero. Now what we want to do is the content wrapper. It knows what that's exactly what we want, right? So we could create a layout component that lays this out, with always has the nav bar in it, always has the content wrapper. So you can do that. And it's very easy to do with these components. It just depends on how much flexibility. Like, do you want to drop it off sometimes? You want to not have the width restriction, like, etc. So in the beginning, it's a bit hard to know that, and especially because I'm just designing it kind of as I go. But if you have like the layouts all figured out, you can say, okay, well, this is always static. So keep it like that. There we go. So we chucked it in our content wrapper, and you can see now it lines up beautiful, right? Everything's lined up nicely. So now what we can say is, cool, that's all done. And we are going to do inside of in the landing hero, we've got this. So here's the page, here's the hero. Now, what is it saying? It says discover and explore, right? Discover and explore Australia's best accommodation. Now, that's good enough for now, but probably needs a bit of work. And then what we're going to do here is we're going to go class there. And then what we want to do here is we want to actually break this up, yeah? And this is a bit long. So we need to think about what we can do. So luxury stays. So it's going to be Australia's luxury stays. But anyway, we can figure that out. So that's all cool. We need to figure out, so this guy now has like a bit of a gap here. So that's padding probably. We can pad that out to pad this whole section. Or what we can do is we can give the container that holds all of this stuff a gap so that the gap's maintained across. And if something's not rendered, it doesn't render. Some people don't like to have padding on inside of a component, but this is probably not really a component in itself per se. But anyway, something like this, I think. Let's just have a look here. We are zoomed in at 100 there. So that's what we look at 100%. We could say leading, what do they have here? In Tailwind, leading, or letting. So like people like to say, line height, we can say letting normal. And gives it a bit more breathing room. These words always get me, letting snug. Okay, now we just need to give it some margin to top. But what we can do, so you're landing here, I'm just trying to figure out, do we just go in here, we go class, flex, and we just say here, we go gap. This is gonna have a gap too, because we're gonna have gap between the search bar. And then let's just do MY, and we're gonna go 16 for now. Which kind of matches it, right? So like something like that. So that's all cool. And now we're gonna do our kind of search bar, right? So we can do search bar next under here. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna wrap it in div. I'm gonna give it an input here. And eventually we're going to wrap this in a form. So placeholder, what are you saying? Search for, what do we have in here? Try searching for a beach. All right, so we're going to wrap that. And the reason I'm wrapping that in div is so that we can have like this with a button inside of it. Like you can't do that really with an input, because the input's going to be like invisible here with no background. And then we're going to wrap that with a shadow and then put a button here. Okay, so that's what I'm trying to achieve there. So you can see that. Try searching for a beck. So we want flex, we want gap 4, and then we want some sort of shadow here. We also want to round the corner. So we're going to go rounded large. Let's do border now and just see what that looks like. Cool. That's kind of clean. And then what we want to do is we want to have the shadow. So box shadow or drop shadow. Let's go shadow large and see what that checks out like. All right, so now let's just try and add a shadow. So just add shadow large there, give it a look. So pretty okay. I just like wanted to actually technically be a bit softer. So maybe shadow XL. I wonder if the bigger you go, the softer it looks. It's pretty intense. It's not as nice as what is drop shadow? Drop shadow large. Let's try drop shadow large. Oh, what? That's put it inside there, which is bizarre. Let's go BG white as well. Okay. Let's go XL. I wonder if you can adjust the shadow here though. Make it a bit softer. Anyway, for now, that is looking similar. And if we drop off the border, there you go, kind of getting that same thing. Obviously that shadow's a bit aggressive for my liking, but anyway, that will keep moving with this. It's looking pretty decent. Let's go P8. We also want to, P8's too big, P6. We don't want that, right? You don't want that kind of clicking on there. That's gross. So let's go there, and then let's just fix this input up here, right? So class W full, we want to give it some text large. Yeah, and then we want to give it some padding as well. So we're going to go P4. And then maybe we'll remove the padding off the box here. And we need at least 2, I reckon. Okay, now we don't want this focus outline because that's really gross, right? So we're going to get rid of this outline. I wonder if we can, how do we get rid of this focus? Outline style, none. I think you have to write yeah, okay, cool. It's gone, yeah? Look, we're breaking all the UX rules, but whatever. Looks crap. So let's add this button in here now. So we're gonna have a button, chuck that in there, and we're gonna say, it's gonna be an icon. So we're gonna need some font awesome icons probably, but for now, let's just do this. We're gonna go class, sure, search, just do that. Disgusting, love it. We're gonna go black, yes, and then we're gonna go rounded, large, probably need to go even XL. I'm just trying to think, was it medium to match those corners? Let's go large for now, that'll work. And then, is that too big? Let's go PX4, PY2. And it's because we got this flex on here, but that's all right. Is it all right, Ken? Probably not. So I think if we chuck an item center here, there we go. It's probably, it's actually supposed to be a square, but anyway. All right, so we got that. Let's make the gap 4 here to push that out. Probably even more, to be honest. Probably need about a 8. There we go. All right, so that looks pretty similar. Obviously we need to figure out the icon there, and we need to get our font right, but we're getting there. The next piece that we can throw together quickly before I end it is probably just this kind of placeholder for like featured things or featured listings. Okay, let's create this featured listings component. So we're gonna go Rails G view component landing, and we're gonna go featured. Sweet. Now inside of that, we're gonna go landing, featured component here, close off the hero, and we're gonna just chuck you straight underneath featured. And now we should have that. I'm gonna close off this guy there. So now we've got our featured template here. So now what we can do is we can see we've got a little bit of a heading. So let's just go here. We can call these sections actually as well, just to break up the HTML, and go boom, featured. And then we're gonna go class. Sweet, that's looking good. And we can just say featured listings. It's called stays, so we could call featured stays even. And then from there, we're gonna have a grid, right? So we're gonna have a little grid here. So let's set that up. That is gonna look like, it's like talk listening to me. How dare you? Yep, chuck that in there. And then I'm just gonna go here, I'm gonna go item. Yep, thank you, sir. Perfect. Okay. So what we'd do here is we could even say, now, again, this is where components come in, so we don't have to redo that like that. We can go featured, and this can be listing, right? And in here, we now have a featured listing. So we're gonna just copy this, chuck it in there. And then from here, we're just gonna go component landing featured listing. And we're gonna just repeat that 6 times. And this is the joys of components, in my opinion. Just love that. And now we can just edit CSS once in here. So let's go class, BG white, sure. And then we're gonna say width full. And we want this to be, is there an aspect ratio here? It's kind of like one, but that's more the photo. So we can maintain the aspect ratio of that photo. But for now, that's looking fine. We want this to be flex column, yep, because we're gonna have an image here. Sure, if that works, I'm gonna be quite amazed. It's taking a while to load. Is that a real thing? It's very slow. Very interesting. If that worked, I was gonna be blown away, but it did not. So anyway, we're gonna have an image here. Width full HBG gray. Let's see. That's kind of right. We also want to do, this will be rounded. Rounded large. Yep, great. Do we have a little shadow on that? No. So we might just get rid of that shadow there. Boom. And we want to actually push this grid down slightly. So we're going to go MT8 here. Maybe 4. There we go. Love it. You can just see you get some serious speed when working with components, which is really cool. We'll just do PY. No, we probably don't even need P. We're gonna just go flex col. And then we'll just do a gap on here. Push to something like that. And there we go. Like we've already got our, look at that. And I also love the simplicity of websites like this. It's like really simple, clean websites that are just for directories. Sometimes just things are just too cluttered. You just want to be peaceful when you're looking at this kind of stuff. So let's have a look at this grid gap. Let's make it 8. Just to give it a bit even more breathing room. And then finally, just to finish this off, because we can, let's go landing. We're gonna actually just create a footer. Let's just check the naming convention we've used. Footer. Yeah, let's go footer. Call it the component footer, why not? And then here we're just gonna render outside of this is gonna be called footer. Okay, there's our footer. And for now, very simple footer because I'm not gonna design it all. And what we should really be doing is using our HTML5 here, guys. Footer. Let's open up this for class equals, and we're gonna go flex, and we're gonna go w full. Probably gonna bring in our little mate content wrapper here to keep all this guy centered, right? And then we wanna have on the footer, this is where I was saying we could just use gap on this whole thing. So in here, we really wanna have gap. I wonder if you do that on the content wrapper and like enforce it there, but that might be annoying. So what we could do is just go div class there like that. But that's still not gonna help us. We need it really on the entire thing. So for now, let's just chuck on margin top. I can definitely address this later. So we're gonna go MT8 here, let's chuck that on there. Even double it, hey, MT16, boom. We wanna go on here, we want the border T across like that. And then what we're gonna do here is also we're gonna go PY8, padding, top, bottom. And there's our footer, right? So that's gonna be what our page looks like, right? So in this video, hopefully you saw a few little tips and tricks here, how we're setting up our controllers, setting up our components, and smashing out a design. Like, I know you can chuck these things into V0 and stuff and smash it up, but it's so valuable to do it yourself by hand. Like, you know how it works, you know how HTML works, and using something like Tailwind is super fast. But like, that didn't take that long, and we have a very nice looking thing that we have full control of in the components, and it's in Rails. So getting how to generate this is a bit harder, but learning the skills is very important. So until next time, guys, catch you on the next one.